On a freezing December night in 1916 in St. Petersburg, Russia, a group of conspirators huddled together, their faces pale with fear and determination. The target of their plot? A man they believed to be the sheer embodiment of evil, Grigori Rasputin. They had lured him to the Grand Yusupov Palace under the pretense of a social gathering, and now watched him as he consumed cakes and wine laced with enough cyanide to kill 10 men. Minutes passed, then an hour. Rasputin showed no signs of distress. Panic set in. Desperate to get rid of him, one of them shot him at close range. Rasputin collapsed. Relief swept through the room, but it was short-lived. Rasputin's body twitched, and with an unearthly strength, he rose again, his piercing eyes burning with rage. How could this unholy figure survive? Who was Rasputin really? To understand, we must journey back to where it all began. Rasputin's story begins in a tiny village in the frozen plains of Siberia. Born in 1869 to a poor peasant family, Grigori's youth and early adulthood are a black hole about which we know almost nothing. Though the lack of reliable sources and information didn't stop others from fabricating stories about his youth after his rise to prominence. Local lore tells of villagers whispering about strange occurrences surrounding him, uncanny visions, inexplicable healings, and an otherworldly aura. By his early 20s, Rasputin is said to have experienced a spiritual awakening. He set out on pilgrimages, searching for divine truth. He took multiple short pilgrimages near his hometown, but it was the visit to St. Nicholas Monastery in Verkhotuye in 1897 that really transformed him and shaped him into the mystique that he later came to be known as. Rasputin was 28, had been married for 10 years with an infant son and another child on the way when he visited St. Nicholas Monastery in the Ural Mountains. He spent months at the monastery, and this is where he developed his unique spiritual style, a blend of Orthodox Christianity and mystical philosophy. He returned to his hometown a changed man, disheveled and behaving differently. He developed a small circle of followers who held secret prayer meetings. These meetings were the subject of some suspicion and hostility from the villagers. It was rumored that female followers were ceremonially washing Rasputin before each meeting, that the group sang strange songs, and also that Rasputin had joined the Khlis, a sect accused of heretical practices involving ecstatic rituals. Whether true or not, Rasputin's reputation as a man of spiritual power began to grow. By the early 1900s, Rasputin had transformed into a wandering holy man, captivating those he encountered with his piercing eyes and hypnotic voice. His fame eventually reached St. Petersburg, the glittering heart of the Russian Empire. In 1905, Rasputin was introduced to the Romanovs, the imperial family. The Tsar recorded their meeting in his diary, writing that he and his wife had made the acquaintance of a man of God. Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra were desperate for a miracle to save their hemophiliac son, Alexei. Rasputin's arrival seemed like divine intervention. After one of Alexei's bleeding episodes in 1907, Rasputin prayed over the boy, and the bleeding stopped and pain disappeared overnight. Alexandra was convinced Rasputin held special healing powers. With this act, Rasputin secured his place within the royal inner circle, but his rise had only just begun. Another crisis struck years later when Alexei's internal bleeding left him on the brink of death. In a few days, fever rose dramatically. He was exhausted and weak, his heartbeat was irregular, and blood poisoning started setting in. The doctors were powerless. Desperate for a miracle, Alexandra sent a telegram to Rasputin, who was in Siberia, and asked him to pray for Alexei. Rasputin wrote back quickly, telling the Tsarina, "God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve. The little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much." What happened next was apparently inexplicable. Alexei grew calm that afternoon, and his temperature came down. His improvement over the next 24 hours was so striking that the doctors issued a bulletin suggesting that the crisis had passed. The emperor and his wife were now convinced beyond any doubt that Rasputin was a man of God. The experience drew them even closer to Rasputin. Rasputin now had the reins of the royal family, and with that, all of Russia in his hands. To the Romanovs, Rasputin was a saint, but to the Russian nobility and clergy, he was a dangerous charlatan. Despite his coarse manners and peasant roots, Rasputin wielded extraordinary influence over Alexandra, advising her on everything from politics to religion. To the nobles, he was a drunk, a dirty man who infiltrated his way into the royal family, who appointed and dismissed ministers, and for over 10 years was the subject of scandals and gossip. But at the same time, he ruled over the Tsar and his family in some strange way. Though evidence was scarce, Russian nobles had had enough of Rasputin's dark hold on power. In 1916, a group of nobles led by Prince Felix Yusupov conspired to eliminate Rasputin. In the early hours of December 30th, they invited him to Yusupov's palace, pretending it was for a social event. The details of what happened next is the stuff of legends. The poisoned cakes and wine that failed to kill him, the gunshot that left him bleeding but alive, and his struggle with Yusupov. Rasputin was shot 4 more times, including a shot to his forehead, then wrapped in cloth and dropped in the frozen Little Nevka River. As was his life, the circumstances of his death are still shrouded in mystery. Rumors about how he survived a gunshot to the head and a fall from a bridge into the frozen river persisted. Rasputin's shadow looms large over history, not just as a historical figure, but as an enduring symbol of mysticism, power, and scandal. His story has inspired countless books, movies, and songs, each presenting him as everything from a misunderstood holy man to a sinister puppet master. Was he a holy healer or a manipulative sinner? A devout mystic or a cunning opportunist? Perhaps he was all of these things. What do you think? Was Rasputin a misunderstood mystic or the architect of Imperial Russia's downfall? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories from history. As always, thanks for watching.